U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton expected to announce new sanctions against Cuba for supporting Venezuela's Maduro's government. Also, a major shift. The Trump administration is gearing up to allow Americans whose property was seized during the 1959 Cuban Revolution to sue companies for using that property. Here now to weigh in, Jim Roberts from the Heritage Foundation. Jim, a major shift from where we were with Cuba not too long ago when President Obama was more or less pushing a reset button at a softball game with the Castro brothers.
Yeah, it's really a refreshing shift, too. And I think, you know, we've been looking at 180 countries and scoring them in our annual Index of Economic Freedom and Heritage for 25 years. And of those 180 countries, Cuba and Venezuela are at the very bottom of the world. And a major component of that is rule of law and especially the protection of property rights. And that's what's not happening in Cuba or Venezuela. And it's a very important move, I think. It will honor the, the sacrifices people made by leaving their homes in Cuba and trying to, to really serve justice there.
Right. And let's face it,
I'm glad to see it.
It doesn't necessarily hurt with the Florida vote, particularly older Cubans who still would like to go back, who would ultimately like to see some form of democracy in Cuba.
That's right. And really, I mean, Cuba has had a failed economy over the entire time that the Castro's dictatorship has been in power. And the way they've been able to stay in power is by extracting wealth from other countries, especially the really hundreds of billions of dollars they've taken out of Venezuela since Hugo Chavez took power in 1999. And so it's entirely proper that if you're going to try to remove the illegal Maduro crime family dictatorship from Venezuela that is basically being run by the Cubans, that you go to the source of that, and that's Cuba.
So the administration trying any way possible to sort of tighten the noose around the Maduro regime. And I keep reading stories that they're selling gold, they're making desperate moves, but it feels like also the clock is ticking. How long is the window of opportunity open for legitimate regime change there that doesn't involve bloodshed?
Well, of course, that's really the big question, and it's important to note that 54 countries around the world, including the majority of countries in the European Union, who today said that they were unhappy with this decision by the administration, to stick together, keep the pressure on this illegal regime, and really help to force it to see the light and leave power, and also keep pressure on Russia and China, which have been acting in support of the Maduro regime.
We've got Speaker, the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, and a group of other Republicans down in Argentina. And I think about this and how just not long ago when Chavez was in charge of Venezuela, how he was spreading his message of socialism, backed with $100, $150 crude oil, and turning a lot of those countries. And we were afraid that all of South America could go down this path. So is it refreshing in your mind that now we're taking the lead and we're going down there, we're talking to these countries, particularly a country like Argentina, which was on the fence at one point?
Absolutely. You're so right. It's so great to see the people of South America have turned away from this populism that has led them into debt and poverty. And Argentina took that step in 2015. Last year in Brazil, the Brazilian voters elected Bolsonaro. You have the center-right in power in Colombia and in Chile, and a solid government in Peru. So people have turned away from the false promises of the Chavismo populism that they could see led to nothing but poverty and grief, and millions of people fleeing Venezuela because the economy is just collapsed.
Jim, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.